When I was immobilized in the hospital after a car accident, my 5-year-old son came to the hospital alone. Grandma and the others went to your sister's award ceremony. Can't enter the house, he said. After reporting this to the police, I stopped all support for them. Now they're begging. On a cold February morning, Lindsay Baker woke up before her alarm clock rang. The digital clock showed 5:30 a.m. Under the still dark sky, the streets of Brooklyn Heights were enveloped in silence. Lindsay quietly got up and opened the curtains. Beyond the window, the high-rise buildings of Manhattan emerged, shrouded in the morning mist. As she approached her vanity, a family photo framed in silver caught her eye. It was taken last Christmas at her parents' house. In the center stood her sister, Candace Wagner, with their parents proudly looking on. Lindsay stood at the edge, her usual modest smile on her face. From a young age, Lindsay had watched her parents work tirelessly. Her father worked in the accounting department of a mid-sized company, and her mother juggled a part-time job at a supermarket while raising their 2 daughters. They were never wealthy, but it was a normally happy family that changed when Candace became a successful investment analyst. Her sister's glamorous career and high income captivated their parents, and gradually, the family dynamics began to distort. They became more enamored with Candace's celebrity lifestyle than Lindsay's ordinary life. "Candace is our pride," her father would always say at weekend family gatherings. Even with tired eyes from his accounting job, he proudly talked about his daughter's success. Her mother too made it a daily habit to talk about Candace to acquaintances in between her shifts at the supermarket checkout. Candace had made a name for herself as a dazzling investment analyst and became one of the most watched young professionals on Wall Street. She graced the covers of magazines and frequently appeared on television shows with her parents watching with boundless pride. At yesterday's family dinner, the conversation was, as always, centered around Candace. "Candace, you got nominated for Analyst of the Year," her mother said with sparkling eyes. "We're really proud of you." Meanwhile, Lindsay's steady efforts seldom made it into the conversations. She had graduated top of her class from law school, built a career at a law firm, and worked hard, yet her accomplishments seemed almost invisible to her parents. "Let's give it our all today," she told herself in the mirror. This habit started when she began living separately from her husband Michael. He frequently traveled abroad for work, leaving Lindsay to parent their son mostly on her own, and these words of encouragement had become essential, especially today, as she had an important meeting with a client. As she headed to the living room, the seedlings of thymus rose by the window caught her eye, bringing a small sense of relief to her busy days. "Mommy, good morning," said Aaron, rubbing his sleepy eyes in his pajamas. Lindsay hugged her son and kissed his soft hair. "Good morning, Aaron. You're up early today." While making toast and pouring orange juice in the kitchen, Lindsay thought about the evening. Michael had been on a business trip to China since last week and was due to return later tonight. She planned to use the extended daycare hours because her review of an important contract was likely to run late. "Aaron, you'll have to stay at daycare a bit longer today. Is that okay?" "Yeah, the teacher always tells fun stories." Her son's eyes lit up. "That's good. Mommy will come to pick you up as soon as she's done with work." After getting Aaron ready and dropping him off at daycare, Lindsay headed to her office in Manhattan. Checking her phone, she saw a message from Michael. "The meeting in Beijing is running long. I'll definitely be back tomorrow morning. Say hello to Aaron for me." Upon arriving at the office, many of her colleagues had already started their day. It looked to be a busy day. Her sister might be appearing on a morning TV show by now. Lindsay let out a loud sigh, and turned her attention to the contract. Another long day was beginning. She reminded herself, she might not be the perfect mother, she might not be the glamorous career woman, but she had to do her best with what she was capable of. That was her way of living. At 2 p.m., the phone on Lindsay's desk rang. It was from the daycare. "Miss Baker, we're sorry to inform you that there has been an outbreak of influenza at the center. We have to cancel the extended care for today." Lindsay gasped. She had the final review of an important contract today. Leaving early was out of the question. "Understood." She hung up and immediately grabbed her smartphone. She tried contacting her usual babysitter, Patty, but she was down with a cold as well. It seems her parents were attending a friend's wedding in the countryside, and Michael was on a business trip to Beijing. Lindsay could not possibly refuse the important task assigned to her by her senior partner at such a late stage. Just then, her cell phone rang. It was from Candace. "Hey, Lindsay, I heard from our parents. Sounds like you're having a tough time." "Yes, but I'll manage somehow. I can look after your son for you." Candace's voice sounded bright and kind. "That's kind of you, Candace, but today, there is the Analyst of the Year award ceremony tonight, but I'm totally free until then. What about after that?" "Don't worry. My housekeeper Diane will be there. She's experienced with children. She used to look after the kids of a top executive at an investment bank." Lindsay pondered for a moment. Her relationship with Candace had never been exactly warm, but they were still real sisters. Additionally, she had heard good things about her sister's housekeeper. And above all, she had no other options. "Are you sure it's okay?" "Of course. I'm taking care of my beloved nephew after all. I've already talked to Diane and she agreed." While gazing at the calendar, Lindsay slowly responded. "Okay, I understand, but contact me immediately if anything happens. Leave it to me. I'll even buy some of his favorite snacks." Even after hanging up, a small worry lingered in Lindsay's heart, but perhaps it was even safer than extended daycare if her own sister was watching him with a housekeeper in tow, she reassured herself. At that moment, Lindsay could not have imagined that this decision would lead to irrevocable consequences. As dusk approached, the Manhattan sky began to be covered with heavy rain clouds. The clock had just passed 7 p.m. "Miss Baker, please give the final review of this and a contract." A young associate approached Lindsay's desk with a thick file. "I'm sorry, I can't today." Lindsay quickly packed her laptop into her bag as she spoke. "I've left my son with my sister. I'll review it first thing tomorrow morning, but the client wants it done today." "I understand. I'll look at it once I get home, so send it by email." Lindsay stood up and grabbed her coat. As she stepped into the elevator, she checked her phone. She had sent a message in the evening asking for a quick call before heading to the Analyst of the Year ceremony. There was still no reply from Candace. When she reached the entrance lobby, light rain had begun to fall. While opening her umbrella, Lindsay checked her phone again. This time it was a message from Michael. "The flight is on schedule. I'll be home tomorrow morning. Kiss Aaron for me." "Don't worry." Her steps hurried towards the subway station, echoing on the rain-soaked sidewalk. At this hour, the streets were completely quiet. As Lindsay walked briskly, she called Candace again. "Please, pick up." The ringing echoed emptily. "I wonder if Aaron is okay." As she approached a crosswalk, she tilted her umbrella slightly to check the signal on the opposite lane. In that moment of distraction, everything changed. A loud crash, a blinding light, and a violent impact. A car sped from the left, its tires sliding on the wet road. There was no time to scream. Lindsay's body was flung into the air and into the darkness. As consciousness faded, her son's face flashed in her mind. "Aaron." Then everything sank into darkness. A white ceiling, the smell of disinfectant, the regular beeping of machines. As consciousness returned bit by bit, these sensations gradually sharpened. "Miss Baker, can you hear me?" Her vision slowly focused. A female doctor in a white coat looked down at her with concern. "You were in an accident and have been brought to Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. You have been unconscious for about 2 hours." Attempting to move, a sharp pain coursed through her body. Lindsay's right leg was immobilized in a heavy cast, and the pain in her chest and abdomen made breathing difficult. Her face appeared to be lacerated, wrapped in bandages. "Surgery is necessary. We've received the results of your X-rays and blood tests. You have multiple fractures, and there is a possibility of internal bleeding. The surgery is scheduled to last about 3 hours. I need my cell phone. I have to contact my son." At that moment, a noisy voice came from the hallway. "Mommy, where is Mommy?" Lindsay's heart raced. There was no mistaking that voice. A nurse hurried into the room. "A boy about 5 years old has come to the reception desk. He says he's your son, but my sister was supposed to." Her words trailed off as the door burst open and Aaron rushed in. He was still in his pajamas, wearing only one shoe. His cheeks streaked with tears and his small body shivering from the cold. "Mommy." He ran to the bedside and grasped Lindsay's hand, his small hand ice cold. "I was scared. There was no one at home." A chill ran through Lindsay's entire body. "Aaron, where's Aunt Candace?" "Auntie put on a pretty dress and left." His voice trembled. "I was playing in the yard, and then she was gone. I tried to call you but couldn't get through, so I thought I'd go to your office." I walked. In that moment, anger and fear pierced through Lindsay. Candace had left a 5-year-old child alone at home to go to an awards ceremony on a winter night, no less. Nurse Tiffany immediately called the police. "There's a possibility of child neglect. We need an investigation right away." Lindsay hugged her son tightly. The needle from the fourth caused a sharp pain in her arm, but it didn't matter. She just wanted to feel the warmth of his small body, and she resolved then and there, never again would she allow anyone to put her son in danger. For the remaining 30 minutes before the police arrived, Lindsay held Aaron, battling various emotions. Gently stroking her son's hair, she asked quietly, "Aaron, can you tell me everything from the beginning? What happened after Aunt Candace came to get you?" Clinging to his mother's hospital gown, Aaron began to speak in a trembling voice. "Auntie came to pick me up and at first it was fun. She taught me about space and a new game, but in the evening she suddenly started rushing. She said she had a very important appointment and quickly changed into a beautiful dress. At that moment, there was a knock on the hospital room's door, and 2 police officers entered. "Miss Baker, I am Deputy Chief Hansen. May I speak with you?" Deputy Chief Hansen opened his notebook and began to ask quietly. Miss Candace Wagner, is your sister correct? Yes, she was supposed to take care of my son tonight because I was working late. Lindsay struggled to maintain her composure. What time did you leave your son with her? 4 p.m. She was supposed to pick him up directly from daycare. Deputy Chief Hansen made a note and continued with his questions. Did you contact your sister afterward? I tried to call her several times, but couldn't reach her. She was supposed to be attending the Analyst of the Year ceremony on Wall Street tonight. Just then, another officer entered the room. We've been able to confirm the surveillance footage. He held a tablet in his hand. The screen showed the front of Candace's house, time stamped at 6:15 p.m. Candace was seen leaving the house in a luxurious evening gown. She appeared to be in a hurry. And the critical footage, Aaron playing in the backyard, noticed by Candace who, without turning back, got into a luxury car and drove away. His words failed her. Temperatures were near freezing. Deputy Chief Hansen continued carefully. Leaving a 5-year-old outside constitutes a clear danger to life. This is a clear case of child neglect, leaving a child alone at home, especially on a winter night. This is a very serious matter. Just then, noisy voices began outside the hospital room. Where's my daughter? Lindsay. It was her mother's voice, then her father's voice followed. Why are the police getting involved? The moment Lindsay's parents entered the hospital room, the atmosphere seemed to freeze. Her mother's makeup was hastily applied, and her father's face was contorted with anger. What happened? I heard Candace might be arrested. Her mother's voice was frantic. While Deputy Chief Hansen explained the situation, Lindsay observed her parents' expressions. As the explanation progressed, the color drained from her mother's face. Her father looked incredulous. This must be some kind of mistake. Her mother insisted desperately. Candace would never do such a thing. There must be a reason. A reason. Lindsay's voice was as cold as ice. A reason to leave a 5-year-old alone on a winter night. But the award ceremony was crucial for her career. Her career? Aaron came looking for me alone. Freezing. What if he had been in an accident? What if he had been kidnapped? Her father finally spoke. Calm down, Lindsay. This is a family matter. There's no need to involve the police. No, Dad, this is a crime. Candace broke the law, and I will take all necessary legal actions to ensure my son's safety. Just then, a nurse hurried in. Please turn on the TV. The hospital room's TV was turned on, and a news bulletin began to play. Breaking news. Major disruption at tonight's Analyst of the Year awards ceremony. Nominee Candace Wagner was discovered to have left her 5-year-old nephew at home alone to attend. The ceremony has been interrupted, and the police are conducting interviews. On the screen, Candace was shown being led away by the police. Still in her luxurious evening gown, she covered her face with both hands. The room was enveloped in a heavy silence. Aaron buried his face in his mother's chest, trembling slightly, gently stroking her son's back. Lindsay's resolve hardened. There was no going back. This was no longer just a family issue. It was about her son's safety and justice. The morning after the surgery, Michael, who had returned as scheduled from abroad, rushed to the hospital after learning about the accident. After explaining the situation, Michael took Aaron home. The father and son reunited after a long time, embraced for a long while. Unbelievable, Michael said after putting his son to bed and returning to the hospital room. I can't believe Candace would do such a thing. Lindsay, lying in her hospital bed, quietly nodded in agreement. The cast on her right leg was heavy, and although the physical pain had not fully subsided, her mind was already on the next steps. Just then, a nurse arrived for the morning rounds. Miss Baker, you have a visitor. The hospital room door opened, and a woman in a suit entered. Hello, I'm Kathy Owen. I'm a social worker from Child Protective Services, Kathy said as she sat down. I'm here regarding the Candace Wagner case. A detailed investigation has begun. Kathy opened her file and began to explain. Security camera footage, weather data, records of your accident, and above all, the fact that Aaron came to the hospital alone. All these are evidence of child neglect. Additionally, the police investigation had uncovered exchanges on Messenger between Candace and her best friend Nicole, who worked at the same investment firm. Hey Nicole, what do you think of my speech for tonight's ceremony? It's perfect. Especially the part about being a woman analyst who values family. It'll really sell. Right? I'm babysitting my niece now. It's all part of the act. You're not really going to take care of him, are you? Of course not. I'll just let him play for a while and then leave him with the housekeeper. Tonight's my night. I can't miss this opportunity. Did you arrange for the housekeeper? Oh, I forgot. I told my sister I had arranged it. But it's too late now. I have to rush. The kid can wait. Now is my moment. As Lindsay read these messages, she felt a chill at her sister's calculated actions. Her son was just a prop in Candace's climb up the corporate ladder. However, Her plans backfired when she forgot to arrange for the housekeeper. Just then, the hospital room door opened again. Her parents entered. Her mother's eyes were swollen from crying, and her father looked utterly exhausted. "Lindsay, please, pay for Candace's bail. You can afford it. Her life will be ruined otherwise." Lindsay sighed. Her parents were ordinary salaried workers. They could not afford Candace's bail, yet they were begging Lindsay to save their daughter, as if Lindsay's savings were their own property. "Are you joking, Mom? Erin's life was put in danger." "But isn't it a family matter? Family issues should be resolved within the family." "Yes," Lindsay replied slowly. "But Dad, what exactly is family? Don't you think Candace crossed a line when she abandoned my son?" Kathy continued to explain quietly. "The prosecution has already decided to proceed with charges. The question is whether you will testify." The room fell silent. All eyes were on Lindsay. "Lindsay," her mother pleaded, "your sister, are you really going to send your sister, who you grew up with, to prison?" Lindsay closed her eyes. Memories of their childhood flashed before her eyes. Indeed, there were happy moments spent with Candace, but at the same time, she recalled the days when her sister was always prioritized and her own efforts went unrecognized. And above all, the image of her son desperately searching for his mother on that cold night. "Mom, I'm a mother too. There's nothing more important than a child's safety." Candace risked a 5-year-old's life for her career. That's unforgivable. But what if Erin had been in an accident? What if he had been kidnapped? What if he had frozen to death? Thinking about these what-ifs keep me up at night. Michael took his wife's hand. He had been silent, but his expression showed he supported his wife's decision. "You've always coddled Candace. Talented, promising future. You'd say, but talent should come with responsibility. I cannot forgive someone who prioritizes their career over basic human morals." Kathy closed the file. "So, will you testify?" "Yes." Lindsay's voice was firm, filled with resolve. "I'll tell everything. For the safety of my son, and for the safety of other children." Her father's voice trembled with anger. "Are you satisfied? Destroying the family?" "No, Dad. It wasn't me who destroyed the family. It was Candace's selfish actions and your years of enabling that behavior. I am trying to create a new form of family." Her mother left the room crying, followed by her father. Left behind, Lindsay, Michael and Kathy began to discuss the upcoming legal proceedings. Lindsay knew her decision was the right one. It might not be the easy path, but it was the path she needed to take as a mother and as a person. Michael placed his hand on her shoulder. "It will be okay. We'll get through this together." Grateful for the warmth of his hand, Lindsay steeled herself for the new life that was beginning, a life based on truth, justice, and genuine affection. She had finally found her path. In a courtroom bathed in spring sunlight, the judge pronounced the sentence with a solemn voice. "Candace Wagner is hereby sentenced to 2 years in prison for child neglect." Candace collapsed into her seat, and her mother let out a scream-like cry. Her father stood dumbfounded. The defendant left a 5-year-old child in a dangerous situation, forcing the child to act alone and exposing him to significant risk. The defendant's career and social status will not influence the sentencing. The judge's words echoed heavily in the courtroom. The trial that lasted 3 months had finally come to an end. Michael gently squeezed her hand, and Erin slept on his lap. The once glamorous analyst's facade was gone from Candace. Her designer suits were replaced with prison uniforms, and her perfect makeup was marred by tears. A week later, the local paper reported the collapse of the investment firm where Candace had worked. An internal investigation triggered by her case revealed numerous fraudulent transactions. Candace's brilliant career had been nothing but a castle built on sand. Her parents were also on a downward spiral. A neighbor mentioned that her father had been demoted at work. He was moved from a position in the accounting department to a general staff role, reportedly due to the negative impact his daughter's case had on the company's image. His salary was cut by nearly 40%. A former colleague of her mother reported that she had been moved from her cashier's job at the supermarket to an early morning cleaning crew, triggered by customer complaints. Additionally, she had started part-time work at another supermarket in the afternoon, juggling 2 jobs. The parents had also sold the condo where they had lived for 35 years. The elderly couple was slowly losing their retirement savings. Meanwhile, Lindsay's new life was taking shape, steadily forming a new reality. The new house in Park Slope was filled with family smiles. In the spacious backyard, Erin played energetically, and on weekends, he enjoyed gardening with Michael. At the office, Lindsay's reputation was soaring. Her sincere approach to child rights protection had earned the trust of many clients. The newly established Working Parents Support Team was receiving overwhelming support from working parents. One day, she unexpectedly ran into her mother at the supermarket. Her mother was scouring the discount section, her expression weary. "Lindsay." Her mother tried to speak, but Lindsay walked past without a word. Behind her, she could hear her mother sobbing. On another holiday, she spotted her father working as a cleaning staff member at a high-end department store. He was bent over, wiping the floor, his body aged. Lindsay quickly averted her eyes to avoid making eye contact. Letters had arrived from Candace in prison several times. Lindsay. I was wrong. Please forgive me. However, Lindsay threw all those letters away. The past should be left as the past with a clear boundary set. At a housewarming party in their new home, neighbors gathered. The scent of barbecue grilling filled the yard, and children's laughter echoed. "What a wonderful family," said Helen from next door. "You all look truly happy." Lindsay smiled in response. "Yes, we have everything we need now." As dusk fell, Lindsay reflected quietly while overlooking the city from the balcony. Candace was in prison, her parents faced bankruptcy in their old age, and their once affluent lifestyle had completely vanished. Ironically, she, who had always been treated as second best and overlooked, was the only one who had grasped certain happiness. It was a modest happiness, but it was solid, based on love and trust. "Mommy, look." Aaron called from the garden. The first sprouts had emerged in the small vegetable garden he had made with Michael. Watching her son's proud face, Lindsay thought to herself, "True success is not about flashy achievements or social status. It's about building sure happiness step by step with the people you love." Accepting the past as the past, she continued to look forward and walk on. That is the true victory.